Good afternoon, everyone. Um, I'm really happy to be here today on this stage. Every generation is handed a set of questions that it cannot avoid. For my generation, and for those of us from nations still finding our footing in a turbulent world, that question is this: what kind of global system do we wish to inherit? And what kind of system do we wish to build? 80 years ago, in the aftermath of two world wars, humanity tried to answer that question by creating the United Nations. For all its imperfections, the UN was an audacious act of imagination. It asked the nations of the world, large and small, rich and poor, powerful and fragile, to come together under one roof, guided by the hope that dialogue could replace war, that cooperation could replace domination. Now, 8 decades later, that original vision feels at once enduring and fragile. Enduring because the dream of peace and shared prosperity still inspires us. Fragile because the challenges we face, climate change, pandemics, digital divides, geopolitical tensions, and even the man-made famine crisis in Gaza have exposed the gaps in how we govern ourselves as humans. It is in this context that President Xi Jinping has introduced what he calls the Global Governance Initiative. Some will treat it as a policy, others will see it as geopolitics, but I want to treat it as what it truly is: an idea. And the beauty of an idea is that it cannot be monopolized. It belongs to whoever is willing to reflect on it, question it, and carry it forward. When your country has endured decades of conflict and outside intervention, when it has been battered by climate shocks, when it has faced the long journey of rebuilding institutions, you learn to appreciate the power of fairness. You learn why rules that apply equally matter, and you see why governance must be about people's daily survival, not lofty declarations. I remember visiting a rural school one day in Somalia, not that long ago. The children sat under a tree with no roof above them, no desks before them. Their only resource was a blackboard balanced against the trunk and the determination of a teacher who had returned after years of displacement. One little girl, Hafsa, came up to me afterwards, her notebook clutched like a treasure. She said, "I want to be a doctor one day so that I can help my mother." Her dream had nothing to do with politics. It was about dignity. It was about having a fair chance at life. And yet, behind her dream was a quiet question: will the world around me give me that chance? Will there be peace so that I can study? Will there be investments so that I can find work in the future? Will there be a global system that recognizes my worth? Sovereign equality is not just about flags at the UN. It's about whether that girl's country has the voice to secure resources for her education. International law is not just about treaties, it's about whether rules protect her community from exploitation. Multilateralism is not just about diplomatic words, it's about whether collective action can address the droughts that threaten her future. When you put people at the center of the debate over global governance, it ceases to be abstract. It becomes personal. Now, I know what some of you might think. Isn't this just another initiative, another speech, another set of lofty principles? And maybe it is. But here's the thing. History has shown us that ideas, even when they seem idealistic, have a way of shaping our reality. The abolition of slavery began as an idea. The notion of self-determination for colonized peoples also began as an idea. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights began as an idea. At first, they were all fragile. dismissed as unrealistic, but because people dare to believe in them, they change the course of history. So when a major leader puts forward a framework like the Global Governance Initiative, the real value is not in the technical details. It is in the questions it forces us to ask. Are we comfortable with the way the world is governed today? Are we willing to imagine a system that feels more representative, more inclusive, more just? Ideas matter because they make us restless with the status quo. They remind us that things could be different, that the world doesn't have to be the way it is. And for us in the Global South, these reflections feel especially urgent. For decades, our nations have contributed the least to global crisis, but suffered the most from them. We know what it means to live at the margins of decision-making. We know what it feels like when systems built far away dictate the possibilities of daily life at home. But here's the opportunity. Initiatives like this give us a chance to step into the conversation, not as bystanders, but as participants. They are reminders that our voice matters, not because someone else allows it, but because history demands it. Somalia is the prime example of how unfair systems can hold back a nation blessed with abundance. Think about this. Somalia stretches across 3,336 kilometers of a coastline, the longest in mainland Africa. Those waters hold some of the most valuable species in the world, including bluefin and yellowfin tuna. Along the valleys of the Juba and Shabelle rivers, we have millions of hectares of arable land, enough not only to feed our people, but to help secure food for the entire region. Our economy is already anchored by millions of livestock, a sector that supports millions of families and makes Somalia one of Africa's largest meat and dairy producers. Beneath our soil, you'll find deposits of gold, tin, copper, oil, and natural gas. And above our soil, you will find skies with 360 days of sunlight and constant coastal winds, together giving Somalia some of the best renewable energy potential anywhere in the world. And then there is our greatest resource at all, our people. We are a nation where 70% of our people are under 30. They are young, very much like you, determined, ambitious, and ready to build a better future for all of us, only if they are given the chance. So here's the contradiction. Despite this abundance, more than 3 million children are still out of school. Millions of mothers and children like Hafsa lack access to basic health care. There is no justifiable reason for this. No moral, economic, or political argument that can explain why a country so rich in resources, so strategically located, and yet so young in its demographic strength, should remain this poor. This is why the principles of this initiative are not abstract to us. They are urgent. They remind us that fairness in global systems is not about charity, it's about justice. And they remind us that our children deserve the same chance to dream, to learn, and to thrive as all of the other children in the world. That is why, personally, I do not see the global governance system as a prescription, but as an invitation. As an invitation to reimagine, to rebalance, and to recommit. It doesn't give us ready-made answers. It doesn't tell us exactly how to reform institutions or solve disputes. But it places in front of us a mirror and asks, what do we want global governance to look like? And that question by itself is very powerful. As leaders, as citizens, and as members of one human family, we can choose to ignore it, or we can choose to engage with it, refine it, and shape it. Let me end where I began, with the power of an idea. Governance at its core is not about systems or acronyms, it's about people. It is about whether a farmer feels secure planting his crops. It is about whether a mother can find medicine for her child, It is about whether nations on the margins feel that they belong on the table. The Global Governance Initiative may not solve all these problems. I don't think any single initiative can, but it reminds us of something essential, that the future of global governance will not be written by inertia, it will be written by imagination. And so my hope is simple, that when the world looks back at this moment, when young people like Hafsa, clutching her notebook, step forward to lead, they will say that in 2025, we dare to ask the right questions. We dare to believe in the power of ideas. And that made all the difference. Thank you very much.